الوالدة الله يحفظها مكان ما تغسل الملابس. شوف هذه الكهرباء هنا يعني لا سمح الله.
This is a short clip of a Saudi young citizen, Abdullah Sura, in which he explains how the Saudi regime is systematically suppressing its citizens in Qatif region, depriving them of the most basic human needs and putting them under miserable living conditions. He simply says we took to the streets peacefully because of our situation and they accuse us of terrorism. Not much later, Abdullah was arrested and accused of terrorism as he had predicted. On April 23rd, the Saudi regime beheaded Abdullah along with 36 prisoners in the second largest mass execution of political prisoners since January 2016. You may play football or take your son to cinemas when you are bored. Yet parenting among Saudi oligarchs linked with the House of Saud may have a different meaning. This is footage of a Saudi rich father playing with his son, pretending to behead his son. Beheading in Saudi Arabia now seems to turn into a new norm both across the society and political sphere. Drug dealers, felons, criminals, political prisoners, and even peaceful activists' heads are now being chopped off by the regime regularly. As a routine, the regime executes one or two terrorists together with a huge number of peaceful activists to cover up the iron fist and bloody treatment of the latter. The Saudi regime's interior ministry claims the mass killings were simply the execution of terrorist convicts. Weeks on, the evidence suggests that brutal killing spree was politically motivated. The largest mass execution of Shias in the kingdom's history was aimed to send a message of fear to peaceful protesters on the eve of the holy month of Ramadan, when national mass protests are planned across Saudi Arabia.
The Saudi monarchy feels insecure inside the country. The United States has guaranteed its protection from outside threats, but also from inside threats. That protection from inside threats have diminished greatly in the past few years. So they are resulting to mass executions to spread fear among the population, so they would not rise against the monarch. The Saudi clan is isolated from the people, and at this moment they feel the most insecure, and the only reaction that they have to this is executions, because 1 week of constant protest in Riyadh, it will bring an end to the Saudi clan and its government.
According to Reprieve, the British human rights organization, most of those executed were convicted of non-lethal crimes, such as attending protests. It is now evident that the regime's execution of minority activists was meant to warn the Sunni population, the majority. If they do wrong, they would face a similar fate. Ordinary citizens now witness that the same sword used by ISIL to terrorize and scare the innocents around the globe is used by Saudi Arabia and MBS to behead his critics, dissidents, and prisoners of conscience in the kingdom. But the criminality doesn't simply end there. Even if the execution of political prisoners could be excused as an internal matter of the Saudi regime, the very foundation of the judicial process is under question. Many of those executed were young activists in their mid-20s. They were kept in solitary confinement for months and were not allowed to speak to lawyers while being denied visits from their family members. All executed citizens were convicted in the Specialized Criminal Court, SCC, the kingdom's secretive and widely condemned anti-terrorism tribunal. Abdul Karim Al-Hawaj, 21, was a schoolboy when he was detained and accused of being a terrorist for sending texts online about an anti-government demonstration. Abdul Karim was beaten and tortured with electricity, while his hands were chained above his head when he confessed to his crimes. His captors threatened to kill his family if he did not confess to the crimes. The father of another young accused man also said he was subjected to psychological and physical abuse which drained his strength. The interrogator dictated the confession and forced him to sign it so that the torture would stop. He signed it. Referring to the written confessions in his court case, Munir al-Adam, another executed activist, said during the trial, "Those aren't my words. I didn't write a letter. This is defamation written by the interrogator with his own hand." The 27-year-old was partially blind and deaf. News of the mass executions came on the eve of a major business conference in Riyadh. But it didn't stop some of the biggest names in banking and finance from attending. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, HSBC CEO John Flint, and JP Morgan's Chief Operating Officer Daniel Pinto all appeared on stage at the event organized by the Saudi government. They had all suspended their activities in Saudi Arabia in protest to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi in October 2018. The man who himself was also an advocate of beheading political prisoners.
No, execution is an execution. To hang people from a crane or to behead them with a sword, it is execution. It is brutal. But what we are doing in Saudi Arabia is we are doing that through judiciary, and we are only targeting terrorists or dissidents who are calling for violence. But we are not executing political prisoners.
So you are seeing how this region, Eastern Arabia, is bringing light to the rest of Arabia. When you see Mujtaba Suwaik, a 17-year-old boy who's very talented, very smart in school, an athlete and an artist who was going to come to the United States, come out and speak and protest without fear. When you see Sheikh Mohammed Al-Atiyah speaking from Jeddah that we need to have Muslim unity between the Shia and the Sunni, that scares the Saudi monarchy who lives on division. The reason is that when Sheikh Mohammed Al-Atiyah spoke that there is no barriers between Shia and Sunni people, what was his charge in the Saudi government? That he is sowing sectarian division.